Oops. And there we are. We're live. And it's 4 o'clock. There's Robert. Oh, I got a good one tonight. And hello, everybody. Happy Friday and Glenn's greetings. Yeah, I had that false start. Hand twitched on the wrong button. So, oh, dogs are getting excited. Anyhow, yes, it is Friday. I don't know if Friday's happy. It's generally just is what it is. So, as we're getting ready to spool up, it's about 93 out. It's nice. 44% humidity. Yeah, the mornings have been really nice. I'm tired. Been plenty of work. Scott, hey, from Arkansas. And Roberts. Jason Fitch has a book deciphering the code. Yes, we've talked about that a lot. He was on Jack Tucker's, yes. He was a great show. He tried to reach out to you. Jason's been to my house. We just actually talked over the phone recently. He'll be our guest speaker, one of our evening guest speakers at the Rendezvous. So, yes, Jason and I. Hey, Lacey, how's it going? But Jason and I, from before he published his book, have been talking. So, I don't have one sitting here. I must have put them up on the bookshelf. I've had them here to show each time, and they're not here. So I'm looking. So they must be on the bookshelf. They must have made their way to the bookshelf finally. But yes, I'm cracking the code. His book. It's in hard copy and softback. Available at the Superstition Mountain Museum, and I believe on Amazon. Right on, Wayne. Yeah, he's going to speak that night. Hey, gang, I am Lake Hickory, North Carolina. Talk to you if I get home. Been fishing. Well, there's nothing better to do than just fishing. What are your tapes? What? I'm 46. I always got all those maps in the same area. What are those? What are your tapes? Tapes. Tapes. What are you talking about? Tapes. Tapes. It's like you can see something. Oh, it was rescinded. What are your tapes? I'm looking around. I have a ton of cassette tapes in a box, but they're in the garage. So, yep, Jax is in here. What are you all riled up about? Okay, so, anyhow, what are your thoughts on what he discovered? I haven't added up, but I think he's about the 14th person who just discovered the Lost Dutch mine that will speak at the Rendezvous. I haven't seen any ore. Haven't been able to analyze anything that he took. He said he found a quartz stringer. I haven't seen anything from it. But he's been by the house. He's dropped off books. In fact, I didn't correct or try to change anything in the book, but proofread for him as a favor, right spelling and different things. So we've had a good relationship and so forth, and I invite him because he's selling a book, which I'm telling him to quit giving the books away, start selling the books. What do we get to see Dexter when I do a special video? Because Dexter will not come in here. He will come to the door, maybe. Dexter does not. He's a different kind of dog. For anyone that ever gets a feral dog, And he's a big dog. He's probably 80, 90 pounds. And he is not socially well adjusted. So, but no, he is not camera friendly. We want to do a little thing because we have a lot of different film and stuff of him. Is when we first got him to kind of walk people through it, because that journey is different for everybody. And Trevor's been resistant, but I think it would be interesting for everyone to see the changes in him. But yes, we have pictures, but that's usually you take a picture and then he leaves. With you tonight from, oh, well, you're in the hospital. Well, that's not good. The elevation, the elevation got to, I'm going back to Washington State. Well, there you go. You're on oxygen. Okay, well, sorry to hear that. Hope things feel and get better. So, hey, Jackson. So anyways, yes, Dexter. Dexter was, my wife saw him online and said, look at that, that'd be a good trail dog for you. You wouldn't have to take one of these ones out with you. And I said, yeah, well, and I kept looking at it, and I felt really bad. He was a res dog, and I didn't know his full story till I got there. Then I got there and found out he'd bit someone. He'd been in quarantine. He wouldn't look anyone in the eye. He was very skittish. Wasn't necessarily mean, even though we found out he has a mean streak. And well, here he comes. Actually, he's stopped. But I felt really bad for him because he was going to get destroyed. So we put him in a cage. We loaded the cage into the back of the truck. Not in the back, but in the back seat. We squished it in. And then I called home and said, I'm bringing a dog. And then I had to back in the gate and close the gates and then let him out. And he lived under the truck for about 3-4 hours. And then he went and hid behind the shed for a while. And then he found a bush he lived behind for about 2 months. But that was his early life. And very difficult with him. Very tough. I don't know if he's a smart dog, but he is a particularly different dog. And my brother, who's a vet, my youngest brother, advised me that he could turn it around. He might not ever turn it around. Well, he's a much better dog, but he's never going to turn it around and be normal. So he never will be in the mountains with me, which is unfortunate because he would have been a good dog to bring up in the mountains. Okay. All right. I also watched Lust for Gold. That was a great show. Bunch of baby treasure hunters. Well, they were crybabies. It was comedy gold. Come on. Thanks for giving him a good home. Well, he appreciates it. Sure enjoyed the video with Bob at the Wasp. Yeah, that was, I don't know why we sat on that so long, because that was a fun video. And Trevor and I still don't know how we ended up there, because I'm wearing a Dawn shirt. We had to do something with the Dons. It might have been cleanup at the Dons camp or something. But we had been to the Dons camp, and we went by to see Bob. And we visited. And then I think I just turned to Bob and I said, hey, I was thinking of the mammoth. And I said, what about the Wasp? Can we head down to the Wasp? And then Trevor had his camera, so we just went down to the Wasp, and we just did that kind of spur of the moment and spent a couple hours there with Bob. And I ended up getting a bunch of samples, but that was kind of a weird, we can't even remember how we all ended up doing it at that day. It was just kind of like Bob was like, yeah, let's go down there. And we went down and did it. So that was kind of cool. Do you think any of the Center's high grade has been found? I don't know. No one's ever it would be, since it's Mammothor, it would be from that area. It would be something. Hey, Ed. Speaking of all that, there's a podcast. I don't think they're on YouTube at all. They're just a podcast. I found them on Spotify. And it's called Two Rabbits, One Hole. A couple of guys. They've been doing a series on the superstitions. I will forewarn you that they get a lot of stuff wrong. and I'll explain that. But they've done a really nice job. They've been very, very complimentary of me. They've done a bunch of my stories. They do kind of the paranormal, kind of that kind of stuff. So they pull my October stories mainly. And they got that stuff kind of right. A couple of the stories, they actually mashed them together. It's two different stories because I'm listening and I'm going, one was about me and somebody going to Revis's grave, and he was drinking a lot of water, which I know that was the trip that we went to Adolf Ruth's death site. And that, but then he also puts in the one where Needle Canyon, the guy that was talking to himself. So sometimes they get the stories mixed up. They do a wonderful job on Alicia Revis. Can't say enough about how nice of a job they did that on the second episode they covered on the Superstitions. They do an absolute just terrible job, but they started pulling information off of TreasureNet, so they ended up with a terrible Adolf Ruth take that is full of all the misinformation and all the garbage from one of the people. They just basically took someone's little standard history, which was probably 50% off, and they just ran that out, which is one of the problems I have with a lot of people that love to tell the stories. But yeah, but for the most part, they tell a lot of my stories. They get some of them a little mixed up, but they did a great job. They were really nice. They talked about Chasing Legends. They talked about the website and everything. So cool to them. I'll write them and thank them very much. But it's 2 rabbits, 1 hole, and I found it on Spotify. So might try to invite them to the Rendezvous. They're supposed to be coming out to Arizona this fall, so it'd be cool to meet with them because I they try, and it's a different field. It's not treasure hunting that they're really jumping for and all. Well, it's Bob's mine. He bought it. I'm not gonna just take stuff. I wanted to make sure I could take it. I think he would have let me take a wheelbarrow of it, but I just wanted to grab some of it. I have some, I believe, from the Mammoth. I got some from there. I like to take a rock from different places that has good color and stuff. It's kind of a memento, and so that was that. Okay, so getting down, greetings from Vegas, Ed, and my company name is The Dawn. When I go to the Rendezvous, I gotta give you a hat. It's a construction company. Well, there you go. And I'm a Don. Does Bob think that the Bulldog Mine is the Lost Dutchman? I think he kind of believes that. I think he's about 75%, 80% there. He still thinks the stone maps are real and they go to New Mexico. And he has a bunch of other theories, but he believes the Dutchman and the Bulldog are probably the same because it was a pit mine, the amount of gold. He says there's just a lot of stuff that ties together. Yo, Dallas, hola. So there's that. But yeah, so those guys, 2 rabbits, 1 hole. Cool. Go listen to that. I think they're doing 3 or 4 different podcasts on the Superstitions. It's the kind of Halloween type stuff. That's how I put it because that's when we do it. But it's interesting. It was very interesting when I first listened to it because I do try to listen to podcasts and interviews and presentations unless it's AI. If it's AI, I usually just can't take it and then I turn it off. But I was listening to it, what they were getting right and wrong, and then everything was getting too familiar. And then they started saying my name, and I realized, oh, okay. They were watching my videos and stuff, so thank you to them. Even though they mentioned a guy who's a guide in the mountains, that guy goes by, he has a name, but they also called him the Phoenix Enigma. And that's the problem. The paranormal guys, I don't know who they are. They don't think they spend any time in the mountains, and they're not really anybody, but they mention him, and he guides people in the mountains, and so I'm like, I don't know who he is. Yeah, I wonder what Gessler... What? Walter and others like the gentleman. Well, because there was a lot of Peraltas in New Mexico. And there's a lot of history there that kind of ties in. So I couldn't tell you. I sat in at Bob's dining room one night. Trevor was there. And Bob started bringing in maps and all kinds of stuff. And I listened to an hour or two of Peralta Stone maps. And it was funny because I brought it up Frank had just come back from Texas from the Tumlinson's ranch. And he had come back, and I was telling Bob some of what happened there. And Bob didn't really listen to what I had to say, and then just brought out his expose on the stone maps. And so I was sitting there. I think Trevor was amused. Is the Bulldog flooded? It could be, but it's also buried. It's a gravel pit out there now. There's no way into it, no way to anything to do with it. It's gone. So the Bulldog does not really exist. I don't even think the Bulldog rock's intact anymore. So yes, the Bulldog is gone. Kind of worse than the Wasp. Wasp is kind of gone because it used to be an adit and tunnels, and it's now just a pit with a water coming up through. You're being needy today. You're being a needy dog. You're a good boy, though. Yes, you are. Come see Daddy. All right, so there's all that. Had some good conversations. Kind of got our hike worked out for the rendezvous. I was thinking of 2 or 3 different things, and then I finally settled because of Rick Gwynn. There was an inscription stone with the name of cavalry soldiers down in Barks Canyon, and I really wanted to find it, and I started working and thinking, well, it's about an hour or so to get there, so I figure we can do that hike. For anybody that's not physically fit, cardiac will kind of knock the people off, and they'll just be able to go back down the hill and back to camp. But we'll do that hike. There's the Peralta Rock, and there's an Oro Rock, and there's some other stuff there. And I went through it with Jack Carlson and Steve Bowser, and we talked about it. So I kind of, after the conversation we all had, I kind of made up my mind. That's the hike I want to kind of do. So, and that was a strange phone call, because I called Jack Carlson to talk to him about it. And as I'm talking to Jack, suddenly Steve Bowser's voice comes back at me, and I'm like, oh, you're there too, Steve? So they were sitting there on speakerphone talking to me, which should always warn you. Make sure who you're talking to. So we'll probably leave 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And we going to the ranch? No, I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody there. And they've kind of that's been, they got it double gated now and everything else. I can call Jordan, but that's what we used to do Saturday when it was too hot to hike. And I haven't done it for a long time. Howard was always really, really good about always opening it up. Howard always opened it up to us. Dean and Chris were pretty good. But then years went by after that, and then Jordan being at all that, and it kind of changed everything. So I don't even really ask them. I asked them to come down and just join us. So when is the rendezvous? It is the 14th, 15th, and 16th of November. I can get us on. We don't need to be on the ranch. It takes an hour or two, and they usually have cattle coming in around the time of the rendezvous, so they'll probably be in working, and I don't want to get underfoot. That's the other problem. There was a couple times we went out to the ranch, and kind of, Howard used to just even open the gates for us so we could come in and out as we pleased, which was the early days, which things changed, people died. Then they started working cattle, and I was losing people from the rendezvous because they were drafting. I can't remember who it was, but it was Jack Carlson was one of them. There was 2 or 3 people suddenly ended up having to stay and work cattle, and I don't think it worked out for them because they came into the rendezvous pretty dirty, pretty tired later that afternoon. But had an author of book Finding the Mind. Yes, that would be Jason still. So we get that there. I know Michael. I know. Yeah, that's Chuck and Judy's son-in-law. Yeah, Mike and Amy, but Jordan's there. Yeah, but it's just I've always invited them to the rendezvous But yeah, the relationship with the ranch, with the Dons, and everything was different, and it's changed over time. And I'll go down. I just went down and visited Jordan. He wasn't home, but I went down, visited with the dogs, and it's just, to me, it changes. There was a time it was really cool, and we just, Howard was always just left the gates open. Howard used to show up with the dogs on the horses. He used to come into camp at breakfast. So it was a very different thing. Howard always come visit camp. He'd come in the evenings for dinner on Saturday night. So that was a whole different, Howard liked to come down and spend time with us. And then we, in return, spent time with Howard out at the ranch. So that was, yeah. But the morning hike, weather should be really good for that this year. Yeah, I've met Mike and Amy. I got business cards from them. Anyways, yeah, so we wanted him last year to be one of the speakers at Saturday night, and we never heard back from him. I tried to see if Chuck and Judy would, because Chuck really likes the history, and because we did an award for them. But yeah, I never heard back from Mike or Amy about it, so we just let it slide. Howard was tough as nails. Howard was a crack up, man. Howie was our guy. But like I said, relationships with different things change over time depending on the people. Dean and Chris were really sweet, super nice people. And I liked spending time down there when we filmed, before we filmed, and while we filmed, and afterwards. I liked spending time. And Dean was someone, Howard had his phone, Dean. But then there was that transition and bump. And yeah, there was a time you went down there, everybody would come down there and gather around. But that was also a time when the gates would be open and everybody could just come in and out and go through. And people ruined that for everybody, which I completely understand. How many years did Jim Bark and Sim Zeeley spend searching for the LDM? I don't know when they finished. It would have been in the 20s probably, or the late teens. I know before he died, he still came out and visited Barkley. So I think once you're a Dutch hunter, you just never quit. But as far as actively in the mountains, I would say there was a 15, 20-year window they off and on did things. Obviously, the 1890s and 1910, Bark moved, and he definitely was he was in other business ventures, because 1909, was it 1909? 1908, 1909 is when he sold his shares of the Quarter Circle U, the ranches and so forth, to Barkley. And then Barkley ended up buying out the partner and everybody else. And Barkley ended up having the ranch, which they always had a good relationship still. Do we know where on the property is the new eco resort going? I figure it's probably going where the Lost Dutchman store was. Ads already, it's nice and flat, it's clean. I would think that would be a good place for. I think it's just going to be like little cabins or something or whatnot. I don't think there's anything developing, because I was just through there within the last 5-6 weeks, and there was nothing there, nothing physically being built. But I would say that would be my pick, because you have both sides of the road. I mean, the view there is spectacular looking northwest, so I would think that would be the spot. But I don't know. So, but where the Lost Dutchman store, that's a nice big flat open area. It's really funny too, because I remember Bob Shoes in the video even talks, it's not that deep for water out in the Goldfield area. But I remember the problem with the Lost Dutchman store was they never could get a well to hit water there, even though the Quarter Circle U has a well down in the creek behind them. They got the windmill and can pump water. So that could be another problem unless the water table there's changed. But yeah, I think that's where it's going to go. Just personally, that's where I would put it, because it's already cleared. The ground's probably a little softer. There's been activity, other buildings been there, and a great view, and just it's a good open space that they don't have to clear or do anything to. Okay, so that's about that. Now we drink to Bob Ward and whoever else wants to drink, because I'm thirsty. I enjoy the B roll stuff. I can't get Trevor to film enough B-roll because music needs B-roll. And I tell him anytime we're out, just let me know. We'll stick a camera up. We'll film some B-roll. We'll stop somewhere. I'll have a cigarette, get some more B-roll. I tell him to do time-lapse stuff, and he doesn't. But I'm trying to convince him sometimes. It's like, we just need to go out. You just, when we're not doing anything, just set the camera up and just look. He has a second camera. So I told him we should once in a while just take that out and just let it shoot B-roll different directions. His problem is he's very picky, that he always wants everything in the 4K, and we don't use the other camera much anymore. But I'm going to tell him, let's start bringing the other camera out and then just set it up and use it to film. We're not going to mix footage, so it should be fine, but tell him, let's just use that to film, B-roll everywhere we go, because it's just, it's stupid that we don't, because it always comes in handy for different things. 1909 is the same year on Bob Ward's Fish Creek map. Did you and Frank find anything to justify going back? Yeah, we found a lot of stuff. We found that big heartstone. We found that silver. I found that pocket watch back in there. I found a silver dollar. Frank's found a silver dollar, melted silver dollar, over by where the lodge was. We found a lot of stuff back in there. That was an interesting area. Found a wallet. Found a bone. It's like crazy stuff. So that's probably one of the areas we found more stuff than any place, because obviously the water washes it down through as well. But that was probably one of the most productive. That was where I wanted a lot of horse mesa in that area. I felt we needed to explore it more for season 2. That was high on my list. What was your thought review of the stone map segment and proof is out there this week? Yeah, you had to say that. That was a complete, utter waste of anyone's time. I don't even know why they did that. That was just terrible. Travis at one time was a policeman. They made him sound like the local law enforcement. But, yeah, that was just a weird throwaway segment that I didn't really understand why they even did it. Another one was, God, I can't remember the name of the show now. I saw it it was on a streaming network. And it was really weird because there's just two people talking. One of them I know. So I'm being, it was 100 horrible. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was -5. But they were talking UFOs and weird stuff. And they did one long talk with a guy where I found they were using 2 camera angles, but one of the angles, he turned out to be the filmmaker himself. I've realized after I looked it up. And he was reversing the camera. It was really weird stuff he was doing. It came off really hokey and stupid. And then one of the other people talking was just absolutely like speaking through his butthole. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it even through any amount of respect, but it was awful terrible. I wish I could see the numbers on some of those type of things, because streaming doesn't really put the numbers out. It's crazy. And then, I can reflect on how big our show was, because I put it in relevance on cable network ratings and per millions of viewers, and then realize just how much stuff you watch on television that just has no audience. And I'm so surprised, but on streaming is even worse. They're just looking for content, and any content is good enough. Indie poorly filmed, poorly done thing, and there's a lot of stuff I don't get past 5-10 minutes. I just kind of go to watch it and then just realize, oh, it's terrible. And yes, there's a lot of 100 horrible. Didn't Hacksaw Tom operate out of Fish Creek? Yeah, that was the story. And then people have a lot of there was the curiosity. I remember someone pointed out how funny that they don't know who he was. They have nothing to him and all this. Tom Collenborn's the one that told the story, and he gave him the name Tom. So, but But I think that story might have emanated with Tom Collimborn, um, and all that stuff. So whatever Tom had on the files, or if he had anything on that, sometimes there's just great stories. But we told the one of the guy that was robbing stuff and all, and never shot anybody, and there was a lot of people like that. The highwaymen that weren't Billy the Kid or Jesse James or anything, that were just trying to make a buck and just trying not to hurt people, but just try to find a way to eke something out. So who knows with Hacksaw Tom, if Hacksaw Tom was even real. That's what I've always wondered, because usually you can kind of dig down a bit deeper. I think one of the problems, and this is for a particular individual, people like to paraphrase a story and then add their own elements in it, because what their hypothesis becomes part of their story, and you can't tell one from the other. And they generally write history knowing that in forums and in public places, if someone tries to basically point out that not just the plagiarism, but that you're not telling the truth, you just made that up, it becomes an argument, and then you get banned or you get in trouble for like picking a fight with them or saying something derogatory. And that's kind of wrong, because if someone's just shooting stuff out of their ass, it should be called out. And there's several people that have done that, and it just always drives me crazy. It's like, man, they just kind of like, hey, okay. But I always hate that, is when people just make stuff up. If you make it up and you're not hurting anyone, and nobody really takes you serious, and they find you as a comedy act, whether you think you are or not, it's one thing. When someone really tries to have people take them seriously, it gets deep and deeper. And that's how I believed a lot of stuff in the early 2000s got shifted, and a lot of bad things happened to the history that are still not totally corrected, because certain people just decided to write gibberish, and they did that. No, not. Oh, you gotta make me get out the mouse, man. I don't even know. I guess I don't know, because how would you know what it is or what it means to be transgendered? I mean, I don't even know that. So there you go. So I don't know. Trevor's home. So Milk Slurper McManus. How do we come up with those names? I mean, that's just kind of like crazy, isn't it? I don't know if I'm getting the right stuff here. So, yes, no on that. And, but, like I was saying, we're having a serious conversation, and you want to be a jackass, but you won't ever, like, come sit around the campfire and be this jackass. Yeah. Trolls. Trolls are so deserving to be in the fire. You know that? That would be the best thing to put. I don't believe in acts of violence, but hey Trevor. Hey Trevor. Hey Trevor. Yeah, they're having it's crazy, yeah. So, well, I'll tell you this, Bobby. Here's the real truth on that. Yeah, they're not going to come out publicly and be like, oh, yeah, that's me on there. I do that stuff. I think I'm funny and all. And that's, yeah, that would, they would not last very long. Just, that would be, have you been to the spot where the V is carved in the rock for vein? I don't know. V would not normally be vein. I don't know why anybody would put a V on the rock for a vein, for 5 or symbolic or anything else. Vara, but that just doesn't seem to be the thing. Maybe the pocket watch you found came from Hacksaw Jump. Tom, I don't know. Tom Collenborn said he knew who it came from because it was a guy who died back in there. People say hi, Trevor, and Trevor's gone. Get rid of them, Wayne. They are not our bunch. Yeah, you try to tolerate and be tolerant for a minute, even if they want to be stupid. It's just, why do you want to offend someone and think it's funny? It's like, you know, and you try to be calm and stuff. What was this? Here comes Trevor. No, man. No, I'm not going to get him to do it. I can do it later. I can do it right now. But if people behave themselves and don't have to say such stupid stuff like they're freaking 9 years old. Did you ever post some of your music on the... Yeah, we did. We did 3 or 4 songs. We did the Christmas song, and then I think we did at least 3 other songs. It was music that I'd worked on, but I worked on for Sunsets. And there's more, but like I said, it's just having the B-roll. So if I don't have the B-roll, I don't know why do you do it, Larry? Why do people retract their messages? I don't know. Once you say it, you say it. It's more distracting to me that you guys retract it, because then I'm going back going, what'd they say? But we kind of always need the B-roll to run it, because Trevor won't run static shots. He thinks we have to have B-roll. So it's there on YouTube and all that stuff. I didn't want to put too much stuff out because I felt it could be distracting, of like, well, you're just making this a music channel, and I was trying to think of what to do, but yeah, we don't have any B-roll, so there's like 100 frickin' things just piled up and in need of desperate B-roll. I also got to do Trevor a favor, quit doing things that are like, hey, you got 14 minutes of B-roll for that. That doesn't help him either. He's like, oh. So yes, I sometimes think, well, we need to go on a journey here. I could use a producer once in a while. I always feel the need to let it breathe. Where Jason went to, obviously found a vein that's been picked. That's V carved in the stone. Just curious. It seems there was only 14 people. There's been a lot of people in those areas. No, you can't. You know how I can find it. You know how you can find that nobody's ever been there. Nobody's not so much even talked about it. Because that area is not that. For Jason and them, that was a journey. For a lot of other people, it wasn't as uncommon of an area, or an area that no one had ever been to, because if he's claiming it's the Lost Desert Mine, there was the Peraltas and the Apaches and Jacob Waltz, and think about it, there's been a lot of people there. So there's also that side of it. So I'm pretty familiar with the story there, Robert. I'm very, very familiar with the story and photographs. And since he discovered the site and he went to make his first trip, I've been in touch with him. We went back and forth. I tried to keep him safe as possible. I did not want his family to lose him due to this and so forth. So there. So that's what that's about. A person is only offended but why they're allowed to offend them. Oh, okay. So, Milkman has a soapbox. Driving down Peralta Road, there's a horse head in the mountain. Natural. Everything in the mountains is natural. Nobody made that stuff. If you go up Cardiac, if you come to the Rendezvous and you get up to the top of the first stage of Cardiac and you turn around and look back towards the parking lot and look over, it looks like the head and a lion laying down looking south. That wasn't made. It's just the mountain looks like that. So I've seen stuff that looks like things, and if you take 5 steps the other way, it changes and disappears. So that happens. That's a Howard Hornick thing. Here I have 1,511 photographs of things I've seen in the mountains. See this picture, see this picture, this picture. Used to do that and all that. So most everything in the mountains is natural, unless you can actually see words on it. Rarely is it carved. There's a couple things I'm curious of and I want to check out, but I don't believe people were in there carving rocks. Mistakes. Do you own a Martin guitar? No, I don't care for Martins. It's a strange thing. Like I said, this Masterbuilt I got. I have this thing of I like to play what I like, and I went out to buy a newer acoustic. I wanted something more resonant and full-bodied, and I was looking at the guitars, and I was looking at Martins, and it was Martins. I'm trying to remember what other two brands. And then in the midst of it, I've told the story. I picked up this, Epiphone well-built, and I started playing it, and I thought, man, this guitar sounds better than the others. And it's, the others were like $6-7 grand, and this one was only probably about 1,000. And I just kept playing it and going, this thing sounds really good. And it was bugging me because is it just me? But it plays well, but it sounds good. And so I put it back, kind of put it in a different spot than it had been. And I went out with Trevor, and then I started thinking about it. And I went back in to look at it again just to see if I wanted it. And this girl was sitting on a chair playing plink, 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 plonk. And her dad's sitting there smiling, and the salesman's talking to her, and she's like totally enthralled. And I'm looking at the guitar going, that guitar is really not, it plays really, really well. Not in her hands, of course. And so they decided, they went to talk about it. She set it up on the wall. They went around, and in the acoustics room, they turned their back to us. I went right behind them, walked by, picked up the guitar, went right out the door. So I went over to the counter on the far side, and because the counter there was, whichever place we were at, was the counter was just outside the acoustic room. So I went to the far side of the counter, hold the guitar down below the counter, and then was just carefully, because they came out of the room, because they were kind of like, what happened to that guitar? And they were looking around, and then they went back in and came back out, and they were talking, and the guy was telling the guy, well, that's the one we want. She really likes that guitar, And I very carefully put it up, and we kind of like, I bought that guitar. But she didn't need it. She needed a beginner's guitar. But it's a weird thing with me. That day I played a Hummingbird too, which was about 8,000. And this guitar just felt right and played right and sounded good. So I'm not going to, say which is the best or whatever. I know there's people that love Martins, and there's people that love certain brands and this and that. And this guitar was just one that kind of rang out to me. And I don't know, it just sounds really good. And it sounded good through here, through the microphone and stuff. But yeah, it's a good full body guitar. And I'm just surprised, that I had the money and I didn't have to spend it, which has happened more than a few times to me, because I will go with the guitar I like more than the guitar of the value. Do you own? Okay, we did that. I had an old bar hound. Old bar hound in the early 50s till the Apaches covered it. Well, the Apaches could have. I don't know how much the Apaches were in the Superstitions. I think they traveled through and stuff, but I don't think they had this as much of a presence as some people like to make. I think, the only Apaches I've found in the mountains have been lost, taking some journeys and trips. I just don't. I just don't find that impact. I know there was some up by Garden Valley and some different areas when they were trying to stay off the reses and stuff. And they came to Arizona after the Hohokam would have been gone, so they might have settled in some spots in there, but they were more nomadic. So the Superstitions was kind of like the areas that you find the little settlements and stuff were more like um, not hunter-gatherers or nomadic groups. They were kind of groups that settled in and grew things. So I could be all totally off base and wrong, but I find the Hohokam and the other prehistoric type stuff, I find that more frequently than anything to do with Apaches in the mountains. Um, Hello, Wayne and everybody. Hey, Steve. Bob Shoes located several of the Peralta mines. Did anyone try digging in there? Well, they were open. He found, was there 9 on that map? I don't know. I don't know where the map is in what book. Yeah, the map from Hank DeAndrea, Ernie Saviano. I want to get everybody's names right. Hank, Ernie, for missing the third guy. Anyways, he had the map from these guys. They had hooked up with Storm. And that, he went to locate that because there was a thatched mine on that map. And he located all of them, but he never found the thatched mine. And I know where a bunch of them are because he's shown me, and we've mapped it out. I was supposed to take Frank. That was a trip we were going to take and film. Take Frank out there and show him some of that. The one that has the tunnel, that has the beds in the wall or whatever, little notches. We were doing that. So, is Frank still looking for the 13 donkeys buried at Hewitt? He could be. He also forgets things a lot, so he may not. Music is my kind of hound. Well, that goes 2 different ways because Music was a hound, and yeah, he was probably a mixed breed dog. That was something they got wrong on that podcast, which I'm recommending. 2 rabbits, 1 hole. A lot of stuff wrong on it. But they listed Brownie Holmes as the archaeologist and completely left Music out of it. That he actually found the skull, which was because he'd been the search party dog previous to all that. So it was kind of funny, but hey, what's history? So I think, I liken Frank more to the 13 Monkeys, the movie. There you go. Oops. Anyways, so there we go there. I don't even know where we're... Oh, wow. Time's flown by. But anyways, we kind of go back and we circle around and around the Rendezvous. Guest speakers will have Woody Wampler will be doing a prospecting class. If you don't listen to Woody or you think you know it all and you're such an expert and your buddy taught you and you just know you're okay, you're stupid, man, because you always learn from people. If you don't think you can learn or understand or pick up something new, then you're looking, no wonder you're broke. So, but Woody's going to be doing a thing there, talking about what he spent from 1970 to 2000, roughly in that time period, 20, 30 years, and a lot of his prospecting was in the Superstitions. And then he moved up to the Prescott area around 2000, and that was, he's been up there ever since, pretty much prospecting up there and teaching classes. He'll be out. The Toronto National Forest will have a group come out, talk to us. Hopefully they'll have the same similar program to last year and more time to talk. We invited them out. John Wayne Galloway will be speaking. We have Harry Bascom, who was with Team Fever. Back at the early rendezvous, like the second or third rendezvous, they used to come out to the rendezvous with some news on their stuff. I didn't even know they were still around, but Harry's going to come out and give us a talk in the evening, and Jason Fritz will be there, and there's a couple other people. So we have some kind of really kind of good things all through the day. If you do the hike, hopefully we'll be back and Woody will be started. You can kind of watch Woody, and we'll have a lot of the stuff happening in the big ramada and the shade. But it should be a really nice day, and hopefully it's cool enough we can keep some wood burning in, keep the bugs away, and keep that smoke smell going, and it should be really, really nice. I can outpan Woody. I'll put my panning skills up against anyone. Good luck. I don't know, people with that. We had someone, I remember once, that was coming up and wouldn't pan, wouldn't change their way of panning, and we were trying to be very nice to them, saying, okay, and I understood what they were doing wrong. And I said, that's the way so many people do this, but it's just wrong. It's not working. And I tried to explain it, and everybody tried to be very nice about it, and that person was just a jerk and just trying to insult everybody. It was like, because this is the way, and it was just ridiculous. And I was like, man, someone went over and was working with them or talking with them, watched them pan, and said, my God, you know, they're losing stuff and all this. Because I basically said, you know, not Woody or Frank even, because I've learned from them. I said, I'm not great, but let's throw something in each of the pans, see which not only speed-wise, but if both of us, you know, come on, I'll take the challenge. I got nothing to lose. I'm not great. And they wouldn't do it because they knew better. Did Bob Ward write any other book other than Ripples? Yes, he wrote a book called Phantoms of the Superstitions, but it's a manuscript, not published. So there was Phantoms of the Superstitions, then he wrote a bunch of newspaper articles and stuff. He wrote 2 or 3 other manuscripts that Rick Gwynn had. I don't know where they're at. So he wrote multiple manuscripts for books. He just published Ripples at the end. And they're all very different books. They don't have the same stories. Don't worry about it, Bobby. They're not going to show up. See, nah. Budge, you want one? No, I wouldn't want a Hot Pocket. Well, that just tells you right where you're coming from. Man, I don't do no Hot Pockets. Sounds like a bad Kevin Hart movie called Hot Pockets. I don't understand Netflix. They hire the worst comedians eventually to make a ton of movies that are not funny, and I keep trying to watch each one. And I've always said Adam Sandler movies are funny one time, and I take that back because after he got that Netflix deal, he's made a lot of not funny movies. It's not even a joke anymore. It's like, I can't watch it. If people enjoy it, fine. I can't watch it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can use the microwave in the coffee shop. So we're going to start wrapping up here soon. But yeah, the Rendezvous will do cardiac, get down in Barks Canyon, go looking for those inscriptions, which should be nice. The weather should be good, but that'll be a good hike for anybody that can make it. There is a bit of challenge. Cardiac's like a 3-stager. It should take about an hour. If you can make it to the top, and you're fine. If you're worried about going uphill again, then don't go down the backside. It's not as steep, but don't, just go back to camp. That's fine. You got your cardio in for the day at that point. But we figure we'll do that, and that'll give us an idea how everybody's doing. Barks is really nice in the mornings. There's a lot of things I'll point out down there and things we'll do. And then we'll point out some of the markings and some of the things there. And then everybody can search around for the other stuff. Hey, I'm in the process of moving. I'll get out there to see you. Maybe a year. Be ready for shaking hands in front of the Superstitions. Well, there you go. That's usually pretty easy. Lifetimes of Jom. What's up, old timer? I don't know about that. Okay, old timer? Old timer. Okay. So anyways, I don't even know how you respond to that. Good thing I have a sense of humor. I let Bobby and Larry bury the bodies. I just have a sense of humor about the whole thing. Why take it serious or have serious regrets? No, that's Rocky. I thought Dexter was creeping in because somebody wanted to see Dex, but he's not going to make it. Anyhow, so the Rendezvous, the cardiac hike will be kind of a cool deal, and then people can head back because it's pretty easy just to get back to camp because there's not much other trail. You're going to just follow it, and it's pretty easy. And like I said, it's about an hour in, hour out. So if we leave about, we might even leave earlier. Depends when everybody's up and they've had breakfast and who wants to go. Also, we can have delayed groups going in. Even though I haven't seen a ranger at Peralta. Because, see, here's the thing. I think it's only 15 people in a group. Don't know why I'm coughing. But 15 people a group And then I come back down Peralta and from Fremont Saddle, and there's like 45, 50 people together for some church group. And I'm kind of like, I wonder how that works out, how they vet that all through. And so I don't think they'd really keep someone there because there's a lot of groups that do that. Okay. All roads lead to pizza. Yeah, I don't even know what's for dinner tonight. I don't know. I haven't even asked. I have no problem with that, buddy. Yeah, we'll get out there and have a nice hike. Wow, so much philosophy going on. There's always a lot of philosophy. That's... God, you should have been around a few campfires with us. There's been a few times the philosophical stuff is just ridiculous. You know, the problem with so many people is anybody can buy a book, and they started making, you know, whatever for dummies books, and everybody got a basic concept idea, and then people sit down and start talking about things, and I don't know. It gets really dumb. It's like, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing, and yeah, but oh well. Okay, thanks, Wayne, my favorite channel. Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. An outro for your Friday. Yeah, I need the outro because a joke I was thinking about today was is I'm great at starting the shows. I'm great in the middle of the shows. I can always wind myself back in. I can always run through things. But the problem with finishing the lives, I mean, the others I kind of have a little stumble, but I can get there because I got a bit of an outro and I got a little bit of a way to sum it up. But the lives are just bad comedy, me of stumbling through. It's like Benny Hill, me getting to the end of this, because I realize I'm interjecting anything I could have thought I forgot, and on top of it all, I'm just trying to find a way to say goodnight and just keep going. So, yes, yeah, I would not work good on live television. They'd be like, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. Everybody have a great weekend. I got work to do again this weekend. Finish up work I had last weekend. So see, it's weird how dark I am and it doesn't show up on the camera. I'm just like brown. And I'm like, I look at the camera and I go, I don't look nearly as dark as I am anymore. It's weird. The camera lies. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to look at. Because, okay, it's just different things you can look at and stuff here. I never use the buttons much because it's, well, you screw things up when you do that. Have a great weekend. Okay, yeah, Monday we'll have a new Chasing Legends up. And... there we go. Yeah, Dennis, get yourself better. It sucks, man. There's nothing worse than being stuck in a hospital, you know. It's all bad. Oh, there's Lacey. We didn't see David, but we saw Lacey. Going fishing for my birthday this weekend. We all know because, yes, it's on Facebook. Lacey. But happy birthday, Lacey. should sing you a happy birthday song, but I won't. Have a great night, Lacey. Don't work. Oh, that's right. You're going fishing, so you're not working tonight. So they're good for you, man. So have a good time. May you catch many a fish and enjoy your fishing trip. Okay, and everybody else, have a great night. I'm going to get out of here with my dignity somewhat still intact. I know I stayed the whole time. There you go. See? I don't know. You're getting addicted to it and all. We'll see you guys here in a couple months, but I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to get myself out of here. I found my button, so I'm ready to rock out of here. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next Friday. And happy birthday, Lacey. And catch us on Chasing Legends on Monday. And we'll see everybody at the Rendezvous on November 14th, 15th, 16th. Until then, hasta la vista. We will catch you later. And have a good night.